Good morning, Prism mates. Today, of all days, we need to focus on one of the core values that we have, and that is that we must not take part in the lie. So let me just say this. You've seen it before. Usually it's when we're talking about Donald Trump and his Republican enablers, but this applies at all times. The simple step of a courageous individual is not to take part in the lie. And my friends, when the liar is Chuck Schumer, who is trying to pull the wool over our eyes, we need to call it out. And yes, we're going to talk about it, how the leadership in the Democratic Party needs to change, and also how if you're seeing any people who are trying to say, oh, it's not a big deal, or folks saying, I've seen some pundits, some on the corporate media, some folks who in my comments on Blue Sky saying, don't criticize Chuck Schumer's leadership. Don't criticize the 8 Dems who folded because you're just helping the quote unquote other side. No, this isn't about voting in a presidential election where you have to choose the best candidate, even if they are flawed, because human beings are flawed. You have to compromise. This is not that. We have an opportunity to change our leaders. I am not going to sit back and take it. That is just not my style. And this is so critical. We actually can do this if we show up. Do you remember how when we had Jimmy Fallon canceled, when his show was canceled and people just boycotted it? It made a difference. What we can do now is to push back. Now, before I get to what Indivisible is doing, I also want to remind you of Frederick Douglass, right? Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never did, and it never will. Let's make our demand. Okay, now, you know I'm pissed off about this, but I think that the best way, my friends, the best way to deal with bullshit is through humor. And so I want to share with you The Daily Show. And specifically, I want to share with you a clip from Jon Stewart, who is back, I guess, maybe one night a week or so. And I'm going to open this up and share this for you. And we will see how we do on this. I'm going to give you a clip of his monologue last night. And let me just tell you, jokingly, because he started talking about the Democrats caving, he said, happy Veterans Day. And by the way, happy Veterans Day. And he said, before we talk to some veterans, I want to talk first about the government ending the government shutdown. And he said, today's show is brought to you by, I can't fucking believe it. Okay, so let me share with you, not the whole monologue, can't do that, but let me share with you a couple clips from this. This is toward the end of it. And let me do this. I think I got it for you. Okay, and hold on one sec. I think I got this. Great. Let's play.
Not to get what you wanted, but for a...
Hold on, let me just... Great.
Democrats, you sold out the entire shutdown not to get what you wanted, but for a promise to not get what you wanted later. Where in the art of war? Hold on, where in the art of, okay, here it is. I got it. Sun Tzu said, Never press your advantage. It's unseemly. Fighting's hard. How about a snack?
Okay. You get the idea here. They literally shut down the government and didn't get anything they asked for. And there obviously wasn't a plan in place by Chuck Schumer at the outset to try to get people to hold on, to game this out, because they must. Who wouldn't have known that this might not end well? So, I just want to I want to share one more excerpt of this for you from The Daily Show. Okay, because this makes me laugh. Here we go. And
we're in this fight until we win this fight, because we know we're on the right side of this fight.
It's literally life or death. So Democrats have 3 words for this. No way.
Well, funny story. Yes, Charles Schumer's 3 words were no match for these 5 other words.
Democrats cave on the shutdown.
Excuse me? Cave on the shutdown? Huh? Not this forceful, young, authentic Democratic Party that hangs out down by the river.
okay, guys. Yeah. So you get the idea. I'm going to drop. I don't know if I can. Yeah, let me drop in the chat. So on your own time, you can watch the full episode of The Daily Show. There you go. Okay. So laughter makes me feel better. I see people in the chat saying they feel incandescent rage. Yeah. So this is, it's not a circular firing squad, Jabberwocky. It's not. We can actually do something helpful here. I actually think ahead more than 1 day or 40 days, unlike Schumer. And let me tell you, in November, when the Democrats who are running for re-election, the senators then, they can say to their constituents, because remember, only 8 of them voted for this. Only 8. Right? You know this, right? 40 of them, 40 didn't. So of the 40, those who are running for re-election in November can say, I didn't support Schumer. I didn't support that caving. They can throw Schumer and the other 8 under the bus because the 8 are not running for re-election in the fall. That's how this is going to play out, because we're not taking part in this lie. Now, let me share with you the plan. And I think this is wonderful. This comes from Indivisible, Ezra 11. These folks understand. What's going on here. And so Ezra 11, Indivisible, we've had him on the show, and his wife, Leah Greenberg, the co-founders, or I should say Leah Greenberg, we've had on the show, and her husband, Ezra 11, co-founders of Indivisible. And what Indivisible has decided to do is take our energy. We don't need a so-called circular firing squad. We don't need to blame any senators who have backbones, who know how to represent the people. We are in dire straits here. And if we don't have people who can stand up to the Trump regime and also to deal with the fallout when Donald Trump and his people are gone, hopefully, to clean up the mess, we don't get any better as a country. And I want to just be clear to you. I was shouting from the rooftops. I'm not shouting. I was speaking nicely. I was writing opinion pieces. Me and a ton of other people, including George Conway and so many others, saying Merrick Garland had to get on it and get a independent counsel, a special counsel to investigate Donald Trump, period. End of story. And they drag their fucking feet. And then all these things got in the way, all these delays that could be anticipated. And he got back in office, and every single person that mattered that was involved, as we talked about in the attempted coup, has now been pardoned. This is a mess, and I was so upset and worried about it. I tried to say something, and people like me who were right, even back in the 2008 crisis, I wasn't alone, right? I'm not a special Cassandra. I don't see things other people don't see. I just don't lie to you. And I can look at things in front of me and look at history and anticipate. And I want to speak the truth. But others are like, well, let's not do that. Or they don't understand. And they just go along with what someone they claims to be a leader tells them. Let me just tell you, I was very concerned at the way we're going about the bailout. I was very concerned that we didn't prosecute any bankers. All the things, let me just say this. Let me just say it back up. A lot of us said, oh my God, these people are going to overturn Roe versus Wade. Don't worry. So why not listen to the people in the past who have been right and not the people in the past who have led you astray, right? Trust your gut. If you don't believe in what I'm saying, don't believe it. But if you trust your gut, you can't be gaslit by even members of our own party. We need new leadership, or this country will never be better. Chuck Schumer is not the leader we need. And on top of that, we need people, senators, who will step up and denounce him. Now, yes, I know. I watched Bernie Sanders was on with Rachel yesterday. And I watched that, and he said, well, no one wants to, Bernie is also correct in some ways. I mean, he's like, we should be focused on denouncing senators, not based on whether they support Chuck Schumer or not, but based on their policies. But it's all the same thing. If you don't have a leader who is willing to lead in the face of tremendous pressure, then you're not going to get the policies we want. I'm not aligned with Bernie that it's all or nothing. And let me share with you then what the plan is with Indivisible. So I'm going to share with you, Ezra Levin was interviewed by Jim Acosta, and he is talking about the plan now. So let me share this clip, and I'm going to talk to you specifically about what we can and should do next. Okay, here is Ezra. I'm with Jim Acosta. Let's play it.
What I do not want is for folks to throw their hands up and say, well, I guess none of this matters. We can check out. That's really dangerous.
Right.
When an authoritarian is terrorizing our communities, as we just heard from Castro, they are invading our cities. They are zip tying children and dragging them out of their apartments. In some cases, naked. They're tear gassing children on the street. These images are horrific, and we need a unified opposition party to this. We can't afford to check out because otherwise they win. So let me say a couple things. Yeah. Angus King doesn't live in the same world that you and I live in, doesn't live in the same world that most rank and file Democrats live in, because everybody else who was watching this was saying, Democrats are winning this fight for the first time. For the first time in a year, we felt like the wind was at our backs. We had the largest peaceful protest in American history, followed by the best election night in a decade plus, with the Republicans fracturing, with Trump blaming the shutdown for their losses, with Democratic approvals for the first time increasing because people were seeing them fight back, and with public polling showing that Democrats were winning the fight. That was the context for, you called it a deal or a deal with the devil. I call it a surrender, an utter capitulation. They got nothing. They got nothing. And so after a year spent organizing to try to convince the Democratic Party to unify and oppose this regime, here's where I am. Yeah. The time for convincing is over. We need new leadership. And the place to demand new leadership is the primaries. And that's right around the corner. But we have to demand a better party. We have to demand a party that fights, because Chuck Schumer isn't listening anymore. Yeah. Angus King isn't listening anymore. These Dems who are siding with the Republicans, they're not listening anymore. And we can't afford that. We need an effective Democratic Party that will fight back.
Okay. And let's just be clear about this. That's the issue. If you tell us, people who went to the No Kings protests, several of them, people who are wanting to put our focus, our attention, our spare time, our resources into stopping this authoritarian regime, this murderous regime. They're just going out and shooting people in boats, or dragging children out of their homes in zip ties. We know what's going on here. You can't just tell us, pipe down. Shut the fuck up. That's what they're saying. All we need you to do is show up and vote for the candidates we have chosen. No. That's what it is. When you don't, normally speaking, you shouldn't, why would you primary someone? Why would you run against a popular and a good, hardworking senator? There's 2 senators in every state. If your senators are doing a good job and they're a member of your political party, doesn't usually make a lot of sense to run someone against them, waste a lot of money, tear each other down. But if your senator is a coward who will capitulate in order to get reelected, not make waves, they're the problem. They're part of the problem. And so what Indivisible is doing, what I'm so excited about, is it's asking all Democratic senators to take a pledge or get primaried. Makes sense. What is the pledge? That you don't support Chuck Schumer. Either step up and say Schumer needs to step aside, or we will primary you. This is so exciting. This is how you get new blood into the Democratic Party. Now, it's essential. So we know that senators get a hold on their jobs, and 6 years becomes 12 years, becomes 18, becomes lifetime employment. And sometimes that's great. Like you look at someone like Ted Kennedy, with all of his flaws and complexity, he was the lion of the Senate. He did get good shit done for people, right? You don't have to say there needs to be term limits. But I will tell you, the biggest problem is that these senators, and it's a fact, they leave their offices and they have to go to a different place to dial for dollars. And they get on the phone and they have to talk to the donor class. And that's who's in their ears. And that's who their values are. That's what they're doing. And we need to step up. We're not members of the donor class. We need to say, enough is enough. You tell Schumer to step aside, or you will get primaried. And I don't know how many Democratic senators are running, but this is a really, really important move to make. It means that we can choose who to run in these primaries. And you know what will happen? It will turn out a lot of voters, because people are not going to want to vote in primaries or in general elections if they think their party doesn't represent their needs. And this is exactly why I believe in a big tent. Zoran Mondani is the right candidate for New York City at the right time. He turned out record numbers of people, like 2 million people, which hasn't happened since Mayor Lindsay was that in the 60s or 70s, voted in New York. Because why? People don't vote as much. Okay, this was huge. Is he the right candidate for your community? I don't know. But someone who runs in your community, who cares about the issues Americans care about, which is affordability, freedom. People are against political corruption, equality, shared prosperity, a chance to make a living in this world, to have a family if you want one, to not have one if you don't. These are things we want. And we don't really want politicians who grandstand, lie to us, and back down and make us look like idiots. We don't want that. So I believe that the best way to get Chuck Schumer out and a good leader in is to do this pledge. So let me tell you how this works. So Indivisible, I want to share this. Let me share this tab. Okay, so Indivisible has an effort now that says, And let me just, I think I can also, maybe Deb can, I think Deb can probably find this and drop it in the chat. So what does this say? Call now. Here, let me just, it says, call now, tell your Democratic senator it's time for Chuck Schumer to step aside. They lay out what happened, so I'm just going to let you know the full reasoning. Right on November 9th, that was Sunday, today's just Tuesday, Chuck Schumer surrendered in the fight for affordable health care, supplying Republicans the votes necessary to advance a budget that will cause premiums to double and triple for millions of Americans. And this is the key thing. This was not a capitulation by the entire Democratic caucus, but the betrayal extends beyond the 8 Democrats who voted yes. The fact that the group was comprised entirely of senators who are retiring or who won't face primaries for several years points to these Dems giving cover to a larger faction eager to throw in the towel. And despite his no vote, the entire political world knows that this is a direct result of Chuck Schumer's leadership. He either blessed the surrender or he was incapable of leading his caucus to hold the line. And here we go. They also add Schumer's second massive capitulation to the Trump regime. Remember, the last one was in March, has shown Trump that he can continue to plow forward with his authoritarian agenda without meaningful opposition from Congress. It's shown him that inflicting pain on Americans helps him achieve his agenda. Okay, so what do we have here? One thing you can do is fill out a form to get connected to your senator. What you do is you can have them you can like literally just call Congress, or you can, it's really easy, put your street, your zip code and a phone number, and you'll get calls from Indivisible. However, you don't have to sign up. You can just call Congress, right? The congressional switchboard. And that number, as you know, is 202-224-3121, right? So if you call 202-224-3121, you can ask to speak to your Democratic senator. You may have more than one. And you can say something like this. Here's a script that you can adopt. Hi, I'm a constituent from Detroit, I could say. Like I could call, I have 2 senators in Michigan. I have Gary Peters, who's not running for re-election, but he wasn't one of the 8. And then I have Alyssa Slotkin. So I can say, hi, I'm calling Senator Slotkin, or you can fill your person in. I'm a constituent from Detroit, and I'm asking her to call on Senator Schumer to step aside as minority leader to allow someone else to lead. And then, you can adapt this. Senator Schumer has once again caved and allowed a budget that will harm millions of Americans to sail through the Senate. That will harm millions of Americans to sail through the Senate. Voters showed up in historic numbers this November to show they wanted leaders willing to hold the line against Trumpism. They want fighters. Schumer showed he is not up for the fight. I'm calling on Senator Slotkin, or your senator, to fight, and please call on Schumer to step down, right? That is, that's something that we can do. What they are also doing, though, is this pledge. So the way the pledge works is, the Indivisible pledge, let me tell you what they're doing. Indivisible is, this is going to be the largest. Here, I'm going to share this, this tab here. They are launching its largest primary program in response to Senate Democrats surrendering on the shutdown vote, right? This came out yesterday. And they have, this is Ezra Levin, who you just saw talking to Jim Acosta. And he said, I love this. This is, it's no longer about them. It's about us. We're done waiting for Democrats to find their spine. Again, I'm quoting Ezra Levin. He adds, we can't afford a weak and cowardly Democratic Party. while the authoritarians invade our cities, terrorize our communities, and threaten our democracy. We get the party we demand, and we intend to demand a Democratic Party that fights. We also have Leah Greenberg, co-founder and co-director. And I love what she said. Leah says a key faction of Senate Democrats have once again showed us they have no fight left in them. They ended this shutdown in exchange for nothing but empty promises from the same Republicans who lied their way into this crisis in the first place, in direct opposition to public sentiment generally and from Democratic voters specifically. So what they're doing is ahead of the 2026 primaries, right? That's it, less than a year from now, Indivisible, and I'm quoting their website here, Indivisible will be activating its network to support progressive fighters who are challenging feckless status quo loving incumbents. And they add that in a recent movement survey, 98.67% of individuals based said they wanted Senate Democrats to keep fighting. So here's what they're doing. In order for you not to get primaried or not to have indivisible support and put their efforts behind a primary candidate against you in the Democratic primary, you have to do two things. One, become firmly committed to opposing Schumer as Senate Majority Leader, and have a clear commitment to ban the status quo of feckless leadership. Okay, so part of it is we get to call the Senate Democrats and demand they call on Schumer to step down. We're demanding the House fight back, and we're building the Democratic Party. This is our pledge to get involved in the work to support candidates in primaries who are committed to combating the regime. So I think this makes a lot of sense to me. It's something for us to do with our energy. Now, I've got some other news for you. My dear friend, E. Jean Carroll, I just saw when I woke up this morning that Donald Trump has now asked the Supreme Court to overturn the verdict in the first trial that she won against Donald Trump. And this was the first judgment she won was the $5 million civil lawsuit. This is, although it was tried, well, it doesn't matter the order in which it was tried, but this is the case where the jury decided that he had sexually abused E. Jean in that Bergdorf Goodman dressing room, and she won that $5 million civil judgment. And there was a separate trial where she then also won, I think it was $83 million. And so that is what is happening right now. So we shall see whether the Supreme Court grants certiorari. Yes, the other judgment. So that was for $83 million. That case, I assume he's going to also ask the Supreme Court to hear. So fingers crossed that they don't take the case. That would be great that they don't take either case. Okay, so those are the top news stories, and I guess the only good thing that I can say about all of this is that in theory, we will end up with the House having to open. Now, do you actually think that when the House opens so they can now approve this continuing resolution, this budget funding bill, do you think they are going to swear in Representative Grijalva and allow the discharge position to be voted on? I don't know. Why would they? Now, I want to also talk to you now about the continuing lies the Treasury Department is spouting about the tariffs. Scott Bessent came on Morning Joe this morning and lied to their face. And, I guess the best thing to do is to show you. He basically claims that he inherited the affordability crisis, and he's supporting Donald Trump, saying prices are down. So he's still lying and saying that he doesn't believe tariffs are a tax on consumers. Quite literally, everybody knows that tariffs are taxes that are paid by importers and then passed along and felt by consumers. Let me share with you, though, this is my favorite part. When he is asked about the now $40 billion bailout, and he says, this is where we're going to get to crazy town, why it's not a bailout. Okay. Here we go. We're going to be several scoops of crazy town from Scott Bessent. Let's get our first one.
This discussion of costs and prices and affordability. How does a $20 billion bailout of Argentina help Americans? You're the president's point person on that. Can you explain to those here who are feeling the pinch, including America's farmers, why the United States is helping out Argentina?
Well, do you know what a swap line is?
It's currency swap, yes.
Yes, but what is that?
You're the Treasury Secretary.
Yes, but why would you call it a bailout?
That is how.
In most bailouts, you don't make money. The U.S. government made money. We used our financial balance sheet to stabilize the government. One of our great allies in Latin America, during an election, the president there won in a landslide. The government's going to make money, and I would rather use peace through economic strength than have to be shooting at.
Okay. He is such a dick. Just to be clear, let's just be clear. Jonathan Lemire knows what a currency swap is. Don't turn it on him. Secondly, utter bullshit to suggest that when we help another country, we never make money on it. It can still be a bailout. Douchebag. Come on. Come on. What if I'm in a lot of trouble and I go to the Treasury Secretary and I say, I need, could you give me $10 million? Me, I would like that, right? But I only want the interest rate to be 1%, and I may or may not pay you back, like a loan, right? And you give me that $10 million, right? And you're only charging me 1%, and I can turn around and make 5% on that money. I'm just telling you, he can claim the government made their 1%. That's not the point. It still bailed me out, right? I mean, I'm just telling you, these guys think you are stupid. Now, I want to also share with you a little more from Crazy Town Bessent. We get, I love this. We get Mike Barnacle, who really doesn't usually take much bullshit, being from Boston. Okay, let's look at his questions to Bessent. Okay, sorry guys.
What does the Treasury Department and the dollar itself in your job have to do with lessening job insecurity in this country?
Well, I think what President Trump's doing in terms of bringing back high-paying precision manufacturing jobs to the U.S. is all about job security.
How many jobs have come back?
Sorry, it's just starting. I was down in South Carolina.
Oh my God. It's just starting. Let me tell you something. You look at that guy and you can go, he's full of shit. I don't want him around because he'll justify anything. Let me tell you something. I look at Chuck Schumer, and he's pretty damn close to that. In addition to caving in March and not holding the line with the continuing resolution then, and now caving after 41 days of suffering for nothing, when Donald Trump's ratings were plummeting, when Donald Trump was telling states they couldn't help fund SNAP, that would have hurt him more. Chuck Schumer didn't have the leadership chops to do this. But I have also told you, Chuck Schumer is the reason why. The Genius Act, which has resulted in part, the reason why Donald Trump has now doubled, it's not the only reason, doubled his personal holdings. And it's going to lead to possibly the next crash in this country because of the way they have insulated the crypto industry and what they've done. And I'm working on an academic paper on this. Maybe I can get out of the weeds and explain it to you. But, I'll wait till the crash and maybe there'll be a book about that. But sorry, guys, I can't do anything about it. Chuck Schumer let that happen too. He has been basically doing the bidding for big money interests on Wall Street in the crypto world so the Democratic candidates can keep their funding and stay in office. And it's not, I don't mean all of them, I'm just speaking specifically. We need something different in this country while we still can have one. And I'm not going to shut up, and I'm not going to toe the Democratic Party line. I'm going to support the courageous Democratic senators. I will always vote for the Democratic candidate who is on the ballot in the general election, but I want to help choose who those candidates are. I am all in, and I'm going to call my senators today and see how they feel about this. And guess what? I don't want to run for office, but someone's going to have to primary these folks. Is it you in your state? Is there somebody who you think has proved their leadership ability, maybe who's already been elected, maybe someone in the Congress or someone in your community? I remember Zoran Mondami was, I think, a city councilor. I forgot what they call them. He had run for elected office before. He showed that he could show up, do his job, vote, work with people. Is there someone in your community who is a local leader who you want to start talking to about running for Senate in your state? This is the time to think about who those people are, because we have a fight ahead of us. And you know what? I believe enough in us, in this country, and the possibility that we can take on authoritarianism and win, but only with leaders who know how to fight. That's a fact. Okay, guys, have a beautiful Tuesday, and I'll see you. Happy Veterans Day. Thank you for your service, and I will see you in the morning.
Hello, prison mates. It's the Gen Taub Show, where welcome everyone. Let's learn about what is happening in politics yesterday and today. There is hope, and we are together in this democracy we work for. And again, welcome to the Gen Taub Show.